Looking at this clip, you can see Chelsea in settled possession. They are pinning Liverpool behind and are actually trying to build the attack. You can see Disasi playing as a right back, advancing with the ball forward, with Conor Gallagher, with Cole Palmer looking to make that run, with only Caicedo remaining in midfield. Now, this other clip explains how Chelsea have lost possession, and now Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez are out of position, and now Caicedo is just alone in the middle of the park, protecting the back four. And Caicedo is being isolated in this position. Now, contrast this with Arsenal. Look at the way Arsenal are actually stifling Sheffield United. You can look at the position of Saliba. Look at the position of Jorginho, who is playing alongside Declan Rice, while Ben White has also inverted in a slightly infield position. Now, in this position, you can see how Arsenal are well structured. Arsenal have pushed a lot of players forward, and you can even look at the position of Ben White in the middle of the park, giving Arsenal a solid defensive structure while attacking. Now, the position of Arsenal players, even when they are inside the 6-yard box, you can see how close they are to their men, ensuring that even if there is a turnover, they are able and quick enough to run and cover that situation. So the clips that I've just shown you are indicating one of the key systematic problems in the Maurizio Pochettino system. And as I explained yesterday, there's a reason why Chelsea are so poor in the second half and are generally poor in controlling games. Controlling games is one of the best philosophies employed by one of the best managers in world football. Mikel Arteta, Jurgen Klopp, and finally Pep Guardiola are managers who have built systems and structures that enable them to control games throughout the 90 minutes of football. Controlling games refers to attacking while defending and defending while attacking. Managing transitions and is usually a key strength in building a title challenging team, as well as a team that can compete with the very best in Europe. Transitions, it refers to the movement from the in possession phase to the out of possession phase, and these three managers have established styles that enable them to do that. We are going to analyze and understand why. So before we even begin our tactical analysis, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. So Pep Guardiola last season won the treble, creating one of the most controlled systems of play that has actually made Mikel Arteta to go back to the drawing board and actually come up with a system where he's able to protect his team out of possession. And one of the systems that Guardiola employed was the deployment of John Stones in that infield midfield position. One key term that we need to understand is we need to understand the phases of the play. We have the defensive phase, the first third of the pitch, the midfield third of the pitch, and as well as the third phase, which is the attacking third of the pitch. So the teams progress from all these three phases. Now, teams formation are not usually what we see them, because if you attack with a 4-3-3, you're definitely limited when facing a back four because you're outnumbered. That's why managers such as Guardiola and Klopp and managers throughout history try to push more players in the attacking area so that they can get numerical advantages during attack. So how do they do this? Some managers such as Pep and Arteta keep their wingers wide and they push their midfielders high up to occupy the spaces in the half space region to try and outnumber the opposition backline, while a solid number of players remains behind to protect. And this number of players can be known as the rest defense, meaning that these are the players who stay back while the other players commit to attack. So what these 5 other players do will determine how the team will win the ball and how the team will behave when they are out of possession. Their main aim is to cover the spaces out wide and limit any situation where counter attacks can take place. Managers have done this by either dropping a midfielder deep, or putting a midfielder in midfield, or having their fullbacks playing wide and dropping their 2 midfielders behind them and having their wingers cut inside. These are just various forms of phases where teams achieve that numerical advantages in the attacking area, as well as having a solid block of around 4 or 5 players ready to sit deep and defend. These players are so essential as the one who are attacking. Now, look at Manchester City's clip here. You can see the solid players, the solid 5 players who are defending, while we have other players who are ahead of the ball. The ones who are defending control the ball in deeper phases, but the ones who are attacking control the ball in the final third. The solid structure of the 5 players who are defending ensures that the team is quite solid out of possession, and they are actually the players who limit transitions. And I'm going to further explain to you how this happens. Now, when teams such as Manchester City, Arsenal, or Liverpool are attacking, on majority of the teams, they commit a lot of players forward. So when you commit a lot of players forward, what happens is that you gain advantages in the attacking areas of the pitch. And gaining these advantages is quite important, especially since you want to outnumber the opposition and create a lot of chances. But sometimes you may lose the ball. And this is where the other 5 players come into place, where now the attacking side of the game turns into defensive, and aggressive counter-pressing situations are put in where the ball is immediately won and the attack resumes immediately. So teams will like to compress this space rather than having their center backs in the halfway line, but rather push them high up, playing aggressively high up and winning the ball and immediately launching attacks. A perfect example is the game we watched on Sunday between Manchester United and Manchester City, and you saw how Manchester City suffocated Manchester United in their own defensive third. So because teams such as Manchester City will commit a lot of players forward, and this will force teams to play backwards to try and limit the space that these teams have, you find that they usually concentrate their attacks in a small area, enabling them to use their small, intricate one-touch passes to be able to unlock defenses. Now, even when teams try to counter against them, their center backs and their defense is usually in position to limit these kinds of problems, with their goalkeeper also stepping forward to cover the spaces in behind. Now, what is the problem with Mauricio Pochettino's system? That is what we are trying to look at. And we're trying to see how Mauricio Pochettino's system is so weak, especially in the transition phase, and that's why Chelsea are leaking a lot of goals. So Chelsea line up in a 4-2-3-1 system, but Chelsea's system, I don't quite understand it, because sometimes you might find that Sterling is holding the width, Chilwell is overlapping, Palmer has cut in, and when Thiago Silva is playing in, what you will see is that Pochettino wants Enzo to be making those late runs in the box. Now, the problem that we have with Chelsea is that we have a disorganized structure, because when Enzo pushes forward, automatically what should happen is that Conor Gallagher should be dropping deep so that he can allow Cole Palmer to occupy the half-space channel with one fullback staying behind, so that Chelsea can have a solid 5-man men behind the ball to prevent this from happening. If Chilwell decides to overlap, then Sterling should cut in and Caicedo can drop in between the two center backs, while Gallagher and Enzo can play ahead of him, so that you can have still again the solid 5 players ahead of the ball and 5 players behind. But when Pochettino insists on pushing Enzo Fernandez high up the pitch and Conor Gallagher is unsure whether to drop deep and help Caicedo, is when Chelsea have this structure. They have committed as many as 7 players in attack, allowing only Caicedo to sit in and try to prevent counter-attacks. This is not aided considering that Chelsea's backline also does not push forward. So Caicedo is usually left a man alone in the midfield, and since the center backs are also quite high and are not pushing forward because Thiago Silva is not quite physically able to keep up if an opponent plays the ball behind him, what we usually see is that Caicedo is usually left in a 2v1 situations, and majority of the time Caicedo is forced to make a foul or is easily bypassed in midfield. And that's why we have seen Caicedo not flourish in this Mauricio Pochettino system, and teams are actually getting the better out of Chelsea in transition phases of the game. Now, this is the problem that Mauricio Pochettino is having, because he's trying to implement a philosophy that worked with him in Spurs. Contrast this with what Arsenal are doing. Arsenal are committing a lot of players forward when they are attacking Sheffield United. So they are pinning those players in behind. You can see the position of Saliba and Gabriel have also pushed forward so that they can easily squeeze in and deny Sheffield United any time to escape this position. So my question still goes on to linger is that Are Mauricio Pochettino tactics outdated? Did the tactics that he employed that gave him success at Tottenham Hotspur the same tactics that he can use and implement at Chelsea to gain success? That is usually the question that I tend to ask myself. And since the setup of dropping a midfielder deep and having your wingers play wide, what this entails is that your wingers should be able to cut in, yet your two midfielders should sit in front of that back three. And the spaces in between the midfield and the defense line should be compressed so that you deny the opponent any time and space for them to look to advance with the ball forward. Now, also later on, we are going to try to look at what are the challenges that Mauricio Pochettino's system is facing, and is Mauricio Pochettino's system and tactics outdated in modern Premier League football? That is the question that we are going to try and ask, because if a system is put in place where it's more concerned about getting the best out of the team, creating situation whereby you are able to attack while defending, that we expect Chelsea to perform better. If you've enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and thanks for watching.